This is Lemon's Car Spotting. You post to Instagram with the hashtag Lemon's Car Spotting. We pick the hooptiest.
They are so incredibly terrible.
And which one we want to become a real Lemons build.
It does car-like things. I've been pushing for one of those in Lemons too, and those are very affordable.
Am I bringing us on?
Welcome to Lemon's Car Spotting and Mediocre Baseball Team Talk with Nick and Eric from the 24 Hours of Lemons. This, of course, is the program where you post to Instagram with the hashtag Lemon's Car Spotting. We find it, we talk about it on our YouTube channel, and we pick two award winners, which are the Lemon's Car Build of the Week and the Hooptiest. But before we get to that, there's a special image that showed up in the hashtag Lemon's Car Spotting stream, which we will discuss briefly.
That's right.
So, Eric, tell us what's happening here.
You know, I don't really know, but we can assume that, you know, when you're sitting there mashing in a million hashtags for your multi-level marketing scheme that, you know, you kind of go with lemon everything, and Lemon's Car Spotting must have been trending that week. So, you know, I don't know. This is the weirdest.
You know you've arrived when you get cross-posted to the body scrub social media spectrum. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Oh, yeah. Look, hashtag Brazilian wax.
Yeah. And below that is hashtag lickable lips, which we probably shouldn't touch with a 20-foot pole.
There's a lot of things that in there that we really don't want to be associated with Lemons drivers. So there you go. All right. Well, hey, so how does this show work?
Well, I mean, before we leave that, I mean, if you have no idea how you want to theme your Lemons car, I mean, a Lemons multi-level marketing is tailor-made. I mean, that's a slam dunk, easy. Just show up, you know, bring two friends and try and recruit the entire paddock to be on your team. That's pretty much all you got to do. Now, as for this show, when you're out and about in the world, as the world begins to open up again, you see crappy cars. If you've been around Lemons, it kind of is just a thing. You just do it naturally. Take a picture of it, tag it on Instagram with hashtag Lemons Car Spotting, and we'll talk about those crap cans as we see them. We can usually find something interesting in them. And without further ado, we should figure out who's going to be picking the Hooptiest and who's going to be picking the Lemon, the car we would most want to see in Lemons. And I can do the choosy bit if Nick wants to tell me.
I'll do it.
This is, of course, our patented method for choosing these things. On my left hand will be the car that would be a Lemons build. The right will be the Hooptiest. And Nick will tell me when to stop as I make this motion.
Stop.
Right hand up. Nick will be picking the Hooptiest, which means I will be picking the car we would most want to see out of this set for Lemons.
Excellent. Let us proceed. And starting off, holy mackerel. Wait, what? So it's a Datsun F10, but it's two? Is that what we're looking at here?
That is exactly what we're looking at.
Good Lord. So the Datsun F10, God, I don't even know. I had a friend who had one. I think it was front wheel drive, which sort of separated it from the B210 Honeybee in the Datsun spectrum. But boy, beyond that, I don't know nothing about a Datsun F10, let alone a Datsun F10 wagon. Boy, if you know anything about these cars, definitely post it down there in the comments.
I think this was the Datsun Cherry, which was sold all over the world. It's front wheel drive. It's like a 1.3 liter engine. And if you're familiar with the Car Guy Life Immersion video game, My Summer Car, which was made in Finland and is a game in which you assemble a Nissan Cherry. That is this car. This is the car. And we've never had one in Lemons, ever.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. There's an obscure video game where you build this car, and somebody said, the obscure video game, as obscure as it may be, is really too mainstream. What I'm going to do is do that, but in real life.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And yes, like Eric says, never had one in Lemons, so therefore definitely goes to the top of our lists. Excellent submission. Who was that? Who submitted that? Oh, God. I sneak previewed another amazing machine. Papi Umelmaha He Neha He.
That's very Harry Carey of you to sound that out.
Yeah, except Harry Carey was trying to pronounce Alex Rodriguez, and he had the same effect.
That's right, and it would have been backwards, and he would have been way drunker than you are. So
right, exactly. Okay then. You guys saw a sneak preview of it before. Of course, we've got ourselves a Suzuki X90. Now, the Suzuki X90 is an interesting machine. Of course, the whole crossover SUV thing has happened. It's, from my perspective, because I'm old, it's been a recent phenomenon. But, I mean, it is like in the 90s, which, of course, now is 25, 30 years ago, when this car came out, there was sort of this idea of well, we'll have a truck, but it'll be smaller. And then you had weird things like the two-door RAV4 and the Suzuki X90. To be fair, the Suzuki X90 was more of a real truck. I mean, I think the four-wheel drive versions even had a two-speed transfer case. It was sort of like a grown-up Samurai. But, the RAV4, of course, became more of the prototypical crossover SUV, where it was a basically front drive compact car chassis with sort of a truck-like utility body on it. But in the 90s, car companies didn't know what was going to be popular. And so naturally, Toyota picked the thing that would then become the kind of car that is the only car you can buy new now. And Suzuki did this instead. That's right.
I mean, there's a lot happening here. It looks like it has a glass Targa roof, which I think was an option. It's got a spoiler. It has a tongue, so it was towed behind a motorhome. I mean, it's two seats. I don't know who they thought was going to buy this, but I mean, some people did.
Yeah, I mean, well, see, that's the weird thing about the Samurai. If you go to certain countries that are somewhat jungly in nature, but have narrow roads and maybe some big cities, so that's South America, Southeast Asia. Cars like this are the perfect tool because they can go on little ruddy mountain roads, but then they're still usable in the city. In the American market, I always pictured it with some 60-year-old car company executives thinking that every hip teen would want to go out and buy an X90. So yeah, it was kind of a confusing machine for our market, which of course makes it kind of interesting now, I would say.
Should point out we have had one of these in Lemons, which eventually got swapped with a Miata engine, I think.
It's possible. Well, of course, the Suzuki X90 was the basis for Speedy Cop's Racing Camper, and he took a camper trailer, hollowed out the inside, and dropped it onto the top of the Suzuki X90. So it remains one of my favorite Lemons cars of all time.
It's pretty good. It's a top fiver.
Yeah. You can find that one on the internet, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay. Man, staying in the Suzuki family. So this is a Kizashi, is that right?
Totally, that is a Kizashi, yeah.
So this car, is this the last, I don't know if it's the last Suzuki car that was sold here, because there was also the Renault and other weird stuff, but this one obviously is an outlier because it was a big, normal-sized car, whereas all other Suzuki cars were, either Geo Metro sized or Samurai sized, and then all of a sudden they came out with this, which was sort of Nissan Altima sized.
Yeah, it was meant to be a competitor, quotes heavily used in that word, with the Altima, the Camry, the Malibu, the Fusion. And it's kind of a good looking car. You could buy it with a stick, and I feel like you could buy it with a turbo too.
Well, I mean, obviously from a car selling standpoint, why would you buy this instead of a Camry? You know, like, oh yeah, I don't want the established sort of bland looking car that I know is going to work forever and have good resale value. I'm going to get the weird one that I don't know is going to work, definitely isn't going to have good resale value, but kind of looks the same as the one that has all of that stuff. So I don't know what your motivation as a customer would be to buy something like this, but yeah, in a void car-wise, I think it was fine.
Yeah, it was cheap. That was,
there you go.
This is the only reason to buy any Suzuki was they were built cheaply and sold cheaply.
Yeah.
I feel like a good trivia question, which I have no idea what the answer to, would be what was the model lineup when Suzuki left the United States? Because
yeah,
the Kizashi was definitely in it, and maybe like the Equator, which was
a rebadged Nissan Frontier, I believe. That is a good trivia question. Like, if you were to walk into a Suzuki dealership in 2008 or whenever this was, what cars would you see?
Well, the hard part, as I discussed with Jay in another one of these that may or may not air before this, where do you find a Suzuki dealership to walk into?
Well, and the thing about Suzuki is, I mean, in addition to having small little utility vehicles that are incredibly popular in certain parts of the world, just not so much in the States. Obviously, they're a major motorcycle manufacturer. So, one held in high esteem, if you will. So it's not like there's some fly-by-night company, but the car side of it just was always weird and never really came out right, especially for the U.S. market.
It's kind of like the way that Hyundai grew out of like a conglomerate of industrial manufacturing and then kind of eventually figured out the car part, except for Suzuki never figured out the car part at all.
Right. Well, I think, I don't know if I know they're not selling in the U.S. anymore. I would imagine they're still selling little trucks and stuff elsewhere, Jimneys and whatnot. So anyway, I don't know. I wish all the best to Suzuki automobiles. I just think that slightly misunderstood for the Americans.
Yeah.
All right. Duh. And speaking, see, here's the problem with America. The Suzuki Kizashi, they sold like 4, and the PT Cruiser, like for a time, was the most popular car ever.
Yeah.
or so it seemed.
I don't know. I don't know if I've mentioned it on. I don't think I have on this, but if there's a great Reddit thread that is like this dude confessing from being a dealership salesman, like when the PT Cruiser came out, and he felt so bad that he was like talking people into $44,000 loans on a PT Cruiser.
Yeah, because they were so popular. It was like the New Beetle, where there was like this rush of popularity, and there was this huge dealer markup. And yeah, God, next thing you know, you got a $700 a month car note on a wood grain PT Cruiser.
I mean, there must still be people upside down on PT Cruiser loans.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're, it's right around the same time of like, the subprime loan debacle. There could be people that are upside down on their suburban tract home and their wood grain PT Cruiser.
Yeah, it's totally nuts.
When you mentioned the Reddit thread, I thought you were going to refer to the other PT Cruiser related Reddit thread that you sent me, which was the one that was just, how did you get your PT Cruiser? Because at this point, nobody like actually went and sought out a PT Cruiser. So there are all these stories of like, well, I got a PT Cruiser because of the following circumstances. And like a good 2/3 of them involved the death of an incredibly old family member. Yeah. It was like 75% dead grandma's PT Cruiser.
That's an easily transferable thing though, because you'd be like, how did you end up with your Buick LeSabre? It's the same thing,
There's a certain, there is a category of cars where if you see somebody under the age of 60 driving it, you're pretty sure like, oh man, nice Buick, and I'm sorry for your loss. There you go. All right, moving onward. Oh God, oh man. So speaking of esteem, and the fact that you either had to have incredibly high or incredibly low self-esteem to drive an esteem, I've always felt that aspire is like, what are you aspiring to? I mean, obviously for starters, a car that's not a Ford Aspire is an aspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you're aspiring to actually get there this time, I think.
Although I will say, now the Aspire was the replacement for the Festiva. And the Festiva was some kind of weird product of Mazda and Kia. And I think Kia was still involved with the Aspire. Is that right?
Yeah, so the Festiva was a Mazda 121 that was built by Kia and sold by Ford in the United States.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if the Aspire carried that on, but I think it's still all the same stuff underneath it. So I assume it's more or less the same.
And I gotta say, the Festiva is not a bad little car. Like I would take a Festiva over a 3-cylinder Metro, I'd say. I don't know if I'd take one over a Suzuki Swift GT, but yeah. And then the Aspire, problem with the Aspire is it doesn't have the appealing milk carton styling of, and by milk carton I mean the little stubby one, like a half and half carton. Yeah. It doesn't have the styling of the Festiva, so the Aspire is just kind of eh. Although I feel like I'm getting strong airport vibes from this, and that's a great airport car.
Yeah.
Car you leave in the snow and don't care about.
Yeah. Bradley Brownell, guy who founded Radwood, his first car was a free Ford Aspire that he had that was like totally falling apart, but he beat the hell out of it for like 3 years. Free car. I mean,
if it's free. Yeah. You know, there's always a place for a beater. All right. What do we got next? What the? Okay, we were talking about the New Beetle, and speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
That's right. So this is Larry Horse out of Chicago, who is kind of adjacent to the Wonderment Consortium. This requires a bit of explaining because I think this is one of the dealerships on Western Avenue in Chicago, which were renowned for a long time. They're all kind of being raised and replaced, but they were renowned for being like the absolute stereotype of used car lots. You know, like the dude who just tunes it up enough that you can drive it 40 feet out of the lot and then it just pukes everywhere. So yeah, I need to go dig it up. There was a friend of mine sent me another guy's like confessions of working at the Western Avenue dealerships, and it's all of the sketchy stuff.
Looks like they've got a Taurus in the background. I can't really make anything else out. What other kind of fine vehicles? This obviously appears to be the eye-catching decoration for the dealer, and not actually a used car for sale. Although it would be amazing if it was.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I would do. I would go into Wheels of Chicago and demand to buy the possibly racist Mexican New Beetle with the sombrero and eyeballs on it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take no for an answer.
That's right. I'm sure that they'll finance you.
Yeah. Oh God. See, you know, if you're buying a Volkswagen, would you rather have this or this? So what is going on here? This obviously is a variation of what was called the Eurovan in the States, but this is from Mike Slapatak, who is a Canadian. And I don't know that we ever got quite this variation of, again, what we called the Eurovan and what they apparently called the T4 Transporter.
Yeah, man, Eurovans are few and far between where I live. I don't know about the West Coast. I assume they're pretty rare there even. But yeah, I can't remember ever seeing a cargo version of one ever.
Yeah, no, I mean, even out here, they, you know, there is a certain camper following like there is for a Vanagon, which is, you know, ignoring everything that makes a car functional, but then be willing to pay $70,000 on it because it has a sink inside. So there's a little bit of that, but yeah, you don't really see them. So I don't know. I like vans. It looks like it's a good size and shape, but it's also a modern Volkswagen. So I don't know.
Everybody around here, if they were looking for the not full-size work van, they would buy an Astro. There's all kinds of Astro work vans all over the place around Chicago.
Yeah. Now, Astros have their own drawbacks, let's be honest. But yeah, if you were actually trying to get to a job site with 2 tons of tools in the back, I would take an Astro over this any day.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, baby.
Oh, man, we're sticking with good old Mike Slap Attack. Apparently, there are good cars in Ontario.
Good's relative, but this is of course the Le car.
Yeah.
Sold as a Renault 5 everywhere except the United States.
Right. We were too dumb to process 5. So they gave a Le car, and then that made sense to us. Like, oh, well, we didn't know what it was before, but now we do.
The car has 5 letters in it. I just thought.
That's right. Yeah. So the Renault 5, I mean, it's one of those cars that obviously has a poor and deservedly poor reputation in the States. But if you go to Europe, it was kind of a normal car that people had. I mean, it was sort of like, I don't know, like a Cavalier or something, where they were sort of ubiquitous and cheap and decent enough to last a while for somebody on a budget. They were not regarded very highly in America.
No. I will say for a while in the very early 80s when these came out, there was I don't know if it was IMSA or SCCA. They had a spec Le Car series.
Oh, that's right.
Crammed full of these little things, which would have been super entertaining to watch them all rolling constantly.
Well, they still, to this day, there's some kind of spec 2CV class for like super lowered 2CVs that look super awesome.
There's the 2CV 24-hour race in Wales every year. It's spectacular.
I also seem to recall that they raced, I don't know if it was a spec class or if it was just there was factory support, but I remember the Renault Alliance being a thing in period SCCA racing.
It was. I think they had both a spec series and then they ran them in showroom stock, which we're talking about real racing, and I don't really like that. But
who cares about all that?
Yeah,
we want you to ironically race a Renault, not like for real. Come on.
Although I tell you what, if you have one of those old Renault Alliance showroom stock cars, you probably have to rip the cage out, but bring it, race it in lemons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will go out on a limb and say Class C is 0 penalty laps for a genuine showroom stock Renault Alliance.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Second to last entry. Staying in Ontario, although this is a car. See, this is the thing. Is like this car probably sold in decent numbers in the States, whereas the Le Car maybe didn't as much. But is it a better car? I don't know. I think that's very arguable.
Yeah, I mean, this is the famous Parisienne, also known as the Parceline if you're a certain Florida-based racing team. But
or a Parasini if you're a certain West Coast gangster rapper.
Oh man, this is just a Caprice with a different grill, basically. But I like the two-tone, by the way.
And it's I both like the concept of the two-tone and the actual shades that were selected. I mean, this is very, very Malaise era. I'm sure the rock parked in front of the front wheel has nothing to do with anything involving the car rolling away uncontrollably if it wasn't there.
The parking pall wears away eventually, and what can you do?
Yeah. All right. Well, Parasini, always a welcome sight. Here we go. And lastly, we're sticking with Mike Slap Attack, and boy, this is a LeBaron, of course, Chrysler convertible. But this is a really late one because it's got the, I'm sure I would be willing to bet money that they called this the Euro headlights, which is to say jelly bean shaped and slightly smaller than the big giant headlights that they had before.
Yeah, this must be the end of the line. You can tell they finally like straight, or they took off some of the straight lines and curved the front fascia a little bit in front of the hood.
Yeah.
Oh God, what awful cars. I mean, just what trash.
They just, I will say, in defense of the LeBaron, especially the LeBaron convertible, yeah, not good cars. My friend's grandmother had one, and she was like the cool grandma who had the convertible, and it was red, and she drove around with the top down all the time. And, in that application, I actually, that is pretty cool. She had fun with it. She didn't necessarily know how terrible it was. And, so more power to her. But yeah, if you were seriously like comparing this to a BMW, which, to be fair, was probably like 4 times the price. But I mean, they were really terrible compared to anything else that they were supposedly competing against.
Yeah, I had a Plymouth Acclaim that would have had the same V6 as this.
Yeah.
Mitsubishi sourced 6G72.
Yeah.
Just one of the most godforsaken engines of all time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the list for this week. Now it's time to choose our award winners. Of course, I choose the hooptiest, and then Eric's going to choose the one we want to see turn into a real Lemons build. A lot of hoopty cars this week. Always anything French, anything modern Volkswagen, anything wearing a sombrero, anything Korean but sold as a Ford. PT Cruiser, of course. Although in defense of the PT Cruiser, actually not a bad choice for Lemons, I will say. I've got to go in the Datsun F10, naturally. But I got to go with something that's not that hoopty, but is, because it's so damn weird and obscure, and it is the Suzuki Kizashi, because, an element of hooptiness is to say what kind of car you have and then have nobody have any idea what you're talking about. And,
right.
The Suzuki Kizashi, as far as 21st century cars, is pretty close to the top of that list. So that's the hooptiest for this week.
Man, you want to talk about a Reddit subreddit topic? How I ended up with my Suzuki Kizashi is about as good as you could come up with, because I think these went out of production, or they stopped selling here, I think at the end of 2012, maybe 13, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, they must be headed for the junkyards now, because what are you going to do with one besides, trade it in, and then the dealership is just going to send it to a junkyard because they can't sell it. They must be headed for the junkyard the way any other Suzuki is. I mean, a 10-year-old Suzuki is junkyard fodder. So.
Yeah. Which is kind of too bad, because as we mentioned before, it's probably a perfectly nice car. It just was too confusing to succeed.
Yeah, 100%. For the Lemons build, I'm going to go with. We haven't had a Kizashi either, but I'm going to go with the car that started this, that, we haven't had and is so perfect for Lemons, which is the Datsun F10. Either of these, or, the coupe version of it, it doesn't matter. A Datsun F10 is long overdue for Lemons.
Yeah, I would totally go along with that. We would certainly get some Why You Ruin Classic if somebody brought one of the 2 remaining Datsun F10s to run Lemons. But as we have often said, running a car in a Lemons race isn't the same as ruining it. You get incredible amount of entertainment from seeing something like this on a racetrack competing with other vehicles. So, I think that's a great choice for the Lemons car build of the week.
All righty.
All right, so that'll do it. Once again, if you want to feature your own content on this program, just go onto Instagram, take your photo of your weird car, tag it with #LemonsCarSpotting, and we will find it, and we will talk about it and probably misidentify it and make glaring mistakes about it. So until next week, I'm Nick. That's Eric. Thanks for watching. Oh, man.
What do you think the F10 stands for?
Oh, God. Well, the F's got to be front-wheel drive, and 10 has to be displacement.
Horsepower?
Yeah. I don't know.